I'd like to help.
Spencer Callahan is the one to see. Call 387-2323.
LA filing number 16-7970.
WNXX, Jackson, KNXX, Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan. LA 21. Now, The Hunt Palmer Show. You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday. It means we're brought to you by Rouse's Markets. Got Jordan Kitchens and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos, and glad you're spending some time with us as we're working towards the weekend. For some, it's already the weekend. Jacob Beck, it's the weekend. He's halfway to Atlanta. Matt Moscona, it's the weekend. He's halfway to wherever he's going. I saw Erica in the car doing morning scone. Musso, it's already the weekend for him. He's been on vacation all week. There's a lot of vacationers around here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge, but we are here, and I'm personally here for quite some time this afternoon. I am going to do After Further Review after this show, so I'll be with you until 6 o'clock this evening, and that, by definition, means we got a lot to do. So let's start diving into it. Luke Johnson's going to be with us in 15 minutes to talk about Steve Gleason receiving the ESPY for the Arthur Ashe Courage Award. Just an incredible news there nationally and certainly in the 504. So Luke will talk to us about that in 15 minutes. Pels made a draft pick last night. At the end of this hour, we're going to have a very special guest come on with us. Baton Rouge Community College has made a hire of a new baseball coach, and we'll let you know exactly who that is, and we'll chat with him just a little bit here coming up. In hour number 2, we got some bowl projections from Athlon for college football. We got some SEC win totals. EA Sports came out with their rankings for team offenses and defense in the new video game. I don't know that we dive too deep into that in October, but it is June, so we'll do that here. And Billy Embody's going to join us to talk some football as well. We'll talk some recruiting with Billy, specifically at the wide receiver position, as LSU missed out on one yesterday. And C.J. Wiley, who's going to Florida State. What's left for LSU at wide receiver? We'll talk to Billy about that in the second hour. So let's start with some baseball. I have done this segment in theory a couple of times over the last 2 weeks. But MLB.com came out with a new list of its top 250. And that includes a lot of LSU-related players, whether that's players on the previous team that we just watched or the signing class. We've looked at a number of mock drafts, rounds 1 and a little bit of round 2. But this gives you a sense of 250 players in the pool and where MLB.com thinks of these players. This is not a mock draft. It's a big board of sorts if you're going to go in the Mel Kiper sense. So I wanted to kind of comb through this and look at some of the guys that we're looking at, both on the team and as far as the signing class, into what MLB.com thinks of them. We'll start with the guys that you already know are not going to be on LSU's baseball team next year. Connor Griffin is 9 on this list. You already know that. Cam Kennedy is 15 on this list. You already know that. Tommy White is 20 on this list. You already know that. Luke Holman, 45. Gage Jump, 62. Those guys aren't going to be on the team next year, and I don't think Thatcher Hurd is either. He's number 114 on this list, and he's been in college for better than 3 years. So, really 4. So, I think those guys we can kind of eliminate from this conversation. Connor Griffin at 9, Cam Kennedy at 15, Tommy White at 20, Luke Holman, 45, Gage Jump, 62, Thatcher Hurd, 114. This is where the interesting discussions start. And maybe William Schmidt is not an interesting discussion because I told you Cam Kennedy's not worth talking about and he's 15. William Schmidt is 16. Now, Cam Kennedy doesn't really have any ties to LSU. William Schmidt does. He's from right here, and you know that. You know he went to Chapel Hill for the regional, and you know that he's had a monster into his high school career. And on the field, there's nothing else William Schmidt can do. He's played his high school career. He's gone to the showcases. You've seen the MLB Draft Combine has come and gone. Like, there's nothing else other than just sitting here and waiting on the draft for William Schmidt. And while I just told you that this is not a mock draft, it's a big board, so it's a player ranking, signability concerns, leverage issues, all those types of things are weighed into the draft that are not weighed on this big board. But I do think it's a relevant talking point to say, okay, William Schmidt on this list is number 16. What does the 16th pick in the draft command? That's $4.7 million. And if you figure somebody's going to call William Schmidt between 13 and 20, which is going to happen, feels like, he's going to ask for more than the slot. So you're talking about an excess of $5 million that someone would be offering him if they choose to make that selection. And folks, nobody likes that baseball team more than the guy sitting in this chair right now. That's my favorite team in the world. You know that. And I do believe that if William Schmidt accepted an offer around 16 for $5 million, there would be a part of him that would go, damn, really wanted to play at the box. But it would be like this big. And then there'd be a part this big that'd be like, that's $5 million. Where's the baseball? I'll go throw it in whatever spring training you want me to. And that's where it feels like this is very much headed. I can try to paint you the rainbow and just paint it in pure purple and gold and go, this kid is a tiger. He knows there's going to be money to be had at the end of this thing. He saw what happened to Paul Skeens in college. He knows who Kevin Gausman is. He went to the same high school as Aaron Nola. He knows that money can be there in 3 years after he plays at LSU. But folks, this is now a unanimous thing when we look at these. They've got him somewhere between 27 and 15, and you're talking about $5 million. I just don't know that that's realistic. I'm going to hold out hope because that's not going to hurt anybody. But that's a lot of coin. So let's start talking about the other guys that are in this discussion. Jared Jones is certainly one of them. Where is he on this top 250 list? Jared Jones on this top 250 list is at number 119. Now, once again, this is not a mock draft, so it's not apples to apples, but I think it's a discussion point. What does the 119th pick get? That's about $606,000. You take out your taxes, you take out your agent's cut, you know, you're looking at $320,000, $340K. Okay. That's the sizable chunk. I don't think Jared Jones will leave for $606,000. I just think someone's going to take him before that because of the tools and because of the way that the game is trending where they just want you to hit it over the wall. So I think Jared Jones will go before the 119th pick, and I think someone will offer him over that slot. But that's where they've got him on this top 250 list. Jared Jones, 119th for $606,000. And then the other player on the current team is Griffin Herring. He just made another start in Cape Cod last night. Was okay. It was not super extended. He didn't get through 3 innings. But he's listed at number 157 on this board, and that goes for $418,000. I'm holding my hands out and doing the shrug. I don't know what that means to Griffin Herring. But I do think a left-handed pitcher who starts in conference play all year and maybe shows a little bit more of that could be closer to where Gage Jump is. And Gage Jump comes in at number 62 on this list. Griffin Herring's almost 100 slots behind Gage Jump. Now, Gage Jump's proven he's a starter. He's got 3 pitches. He throws a little harder than Griffin Herring, but he wasn't as dominant on the mound this year as Griffin Herring was. There is upside here for Griffin. And I have not checked on this. There's a lot going on at LSU's baseball office over the last 3 weeks, so I'm not going to go too deep into the woods over there. When we get closer to draft time and the portal settle down, I'll put some feelers out and kind of see, and you'll hear what I have to say on these airwaves when I do. But I feel like there's a chance Griffin Herring could come back. You lose a year, which is a big deal. We saw it in the NBA draft last night. You're a year older, they shy away from that. You see Dalton Connect? But I think that you're looking at $400K, $300K. Trust me, I'll take a check for $400K right this very second. But that could go up with another great year from Griffin Herring. I think there's a possibility. Let's go to the high school kids. Cade Arambidi is a name that you probably know if you've been paying attention. Houston area catcher, one of the top prep catchers in the country, was a really, really hot name 12 months ago and kind of cooled a little bit based on his senior season. He is on this list at number 115. He's one spot behind Thatcher Hurd. That's 630,000-ish for a high schooler. I don't know how he feels about that, but it's an interesting thing to look at. And catchers, especially ones that can hit, are very, very valuable. And I think there's some upside there from Kade Arambidi. But look, being one of the top 115 picks is nothing to sneeze at. That's a high six-figure number. Derek Curiel's 117 on this list. We've talked to him on this show. He said he's coming to LSU. Cale Fountain is a couple spots behind that at number 121. This is a guy from the state of Nebraska, all-time Nebraska high school home run king. Has some power. We know LSU's looking for power, and right now I don't have a bona fide third baseman to plug in. I don't know if Cale Fountain's ready to play third base at LSU, defensively or offensively. I know he's thought of pretty highly and projectionably from these scouts because he's number 121 on this list. That's right next to Jared Jones. Jared Jones is 119. Cale Fountain's 121. That should give you an indication of what they may think of him. That's an encouraging thing for someone you hope to get to campus, but he could certainly have his name called. Somebody that we haven't talked about a lot on this show is Michael Ryan. Michael Ryan is the shortstop from Rummel, right down the road. He is on this list at number 202. I have heard through the grapevine some rumblings that Mikey Ryan may sign a professional contract. May just want to start playing pro baseball. But that remains to be seen. The phone's got to ring. The number's got to be right. He's a really, really toolsy player. And I think an interesting prospect for LSU. He's at number 202 on this list. And then the last high schooler on this list is Maverick Rizzi, big 6'9", right-handed pitcher, 244 on this list. That feels a little low for a guy with that kind of projection to jump. 250th pick in the draft. You've got a lot of upside there that you could move into with some years in a college baseball program. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody called him in the second or third round because there's that much projection there. But I think there's a real chance that LSU can get him to school at number 244. If you weren't counting, that was 8 signees from this LSU signing class in the top 250 on a list that includes a bunch of college kids. Connor Griffin, Cam Caminiti, William Smith, Kade Arambidi, Derek Curiel, Cale Fountain, Michael Ryan, and Maverick Rizzi. It's a loaded signing class for LSU, but you got to find a way to navigate the draft waters. It's the same conversation we have every single year at this time, but I think there was a time where we did not discuss this many guys in the top 250 in the high school class. You just didn't swim in those waters as much because they weren't going to come to school. Now, with what the SEC has become in baseball, with how quick MLB franchises are willing to bet on college kids before high school kids and the money you can actually make in college, the dynamic has shifted. And you're going to see more high-end high schoolers go to college, so you're seeing more top-end guys in LSU's recruiting classes. It's a class that could be really, really big for Jay Johnson. It could be really, really gutting come draft day. We'll just have to find out. But I thought that was interesting. If you want to check out the article, you can at MLB.com. Jim Callis tweeted it out, and the whole thing is right there. There's 8 guys from LSU's signing class and 6 guys from LSU's roster last year. I think the most interesting of which are Jared Jones and, of course, Griffin Herring. Our baseball breakdowns all season long brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar. 2 locations, Nicholson just south of campus, Bluebonnet in front of the Mall of Louisiana. Get on by and try some Breggie's Creole Crush sauce. It's really, really good stuff. Enjoy our time out there at Pluckers on Tuesdays, and always appreciate our baseball breakdowns each and every day through the month of June. Take a time out. When we come back, Luke Johnson talking about Steve Gleason winning an ESPY for the Arthur Ashe Courage Award. That's next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Evolve Physical Therapy. You can find them online, evolvept.com. Pain is just part of life, whether it's an accident you've been in, whether you just slept wrong, or whether you're injured playing a sport. If you're a youth athlete or weekend warrior, ancient athlete, as it were, Robbie Bolton can help you deal with that pain. It's going to be really hands-on. I know a lot of folks have gone in to see a doc, and the doc says, hey, head on to physical therapy. Here's where you go. Well, you can do that, and there's nothing wrong with it, but you can pick where you go to physical therapy as well. And if you've had a poor physical therapy experience where you didn't feel like you got some hands-on treatment, you felt like they just gave you some exercises and went and filed some paperwork, let Evolve handle your situation. They're going to be hands-on. They're going to do the dry needling and the cupping and the scraping. They can do massaging. don't pay cash to get someone to stretch you out or do that. You can go use your insurance and have Evolve Physical Therapy handle all of that. Robbie Bolton says this: once I see you, I will see you forever. Trust the same guy that Kevin Gosman trusts, that Austin Nola has trusted. Many, many LSU athletes in their college and professional days have gone to Robbie Bolton. Check him out, evolvept.com. They're on Starring near Highland Road. It's Evolve Physical Therapy at evolvept.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off F-150. $10,000 off the new 2024 Ford F-150. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, party plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR. Round 1 of the NBA draft in the books. We'll talk about how the Pelicans fared, preview the rest of the draft, and the latest in college baseball's transfer portal. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Rouse's Supermarkets is the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Covering those Saints, Luke Johnson for The Advocate joins us every Thursday on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Luke, how are you?
My guy, I'm doing great.
I love to hear that. Speaking of great, the ESPYs did announce earlier that Steve Gleason going to be honored with the Arthur Ashe Courage Award, and I think that's obviously very, very much appropriate, and his story is one that's so incredible. I'm curious your reaction when you heard that news.
Yeah, I'm just with you on that. I think it's totally well earned for Steve Gleason. He's inspired so many people around, not just New Orleans and South Louisiana, but across the world. I don't know if you've ever seen the documentary just about his diagnosis and how he's lived with it and how he's raised a family through it. But like, man, I was like crying at the end of that thing. Like as soon as it was over, and I like wiped away all the tears, I like immediately reached for the phone and called my dad. And there's just I think his impact is just like that. Like I think it's far-reaching, and it's not only inspiring those who are battling ALS. It's inspiring those who don't have the illness, who have a family member who have an illness, who just want to be a better person. I can't think of anybody more worthy of the Arthur Ashe Award.
I'm curious, you're around the Saints a lot. It is your job, in fact. How present is he with that organization?
Well, his presence is all around the facility. They have these huge banners that hang at each end of the indoor facility with kind of like Saints legends. It's just like a kind of an artistic work showing like a bunch of the backs of a bunch of jerseys. Gleason is probably one of the 40 guys represented in there, which is I think a pretty big honor for a guy who's mostly a special teams player here. You see so much more of Steve Gleason around the facility, just like in terms of like the iconography, right? He's a huge part of this franchise. Obviously, like he is limited as far as what he can do and with mobility and getting around and being around and speaking to people. But I think he was at like 3 or 4 games last year. One of which was the season opener, and I remember how big a deal it was when Zach Baum blocked a punt with him in the building. His physical ability to just like be around is it's hard for him, but like he is definitely like a part of that organization, and he's kind of celebrated there.
I think it says a lot that Drew Brees wore the Team Gleason shirt when he was meeting with the media after being inducted into the Saints Hall of Fame. What has Drew had to say about that when he's had the opportunity? It obviously means a lot to him.
Yeah, I think Drew has just been very active within that within Steve's organization and helping promote it and being a part of it. Obviously they were teammates. Drew was in the building for Steve Gleason's punt block. That was Drew's first home game in the Superdome too. I think he recognizes what his platform is and how many people he can reach. Like Steve, obviously has his own, but Drew recognizes that he can amplify that even more. And I think he's, just kind of devoted a lot of his own time, energy, resources to Steve's foundation and the work they do.
I mean this in a positive way. I think someone could misconstrue this question and go, well, there's more important stuff than football. And I'm aware of that. But do you think that punt block elevated him to a point where this post-career and the work that Steve Gleason has done since his diagnosis, is the punt block help that?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly has. I mean, it's one of the most iconic plays in franchise history. I mean, I think you could put the punt block and the rebirth and everything associated with that right up there with ambush in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It is like he is already entrenched in Saints lore, right? And then obviously he's had to do everything he's dealt with since his diagnosis, which is just kind of added to that. But yeah, like if he was again, qualifying this, if he was just a special teams player, right, like a good special teams player who made a couple plays and whatnot, it would be different. But like he was directly responsible for like one of the biggest moments in franchise history and what a lot of people just associate with coming back from Hurricane Katrina. So he was already a beloved figure here, before everything that has transpired since his diagnosis, and it's a big part of it.
It's like it's just to kind of put in context. It's like I don't know how much visibility JT Gray has. He's a great special teams player, but I think it's one of those like everything happens for a reason type deals, and you get that visible, and then he's someone strong enough to have this diagnosis and decide I'm not just going to sit in a chair. I'm gonna do something about this, and like I don't know if he has that platform if that doesn't happen. It's just something that I thought about earlier today when I was just kind of thinking about what to say about Steve Gleason's situation. I started thinking, man, that was a big deal for the city at the time, a big deal for the Saints as they were starting to become a really good team. But then all of a sudden, you can look back on it 18 years later and be like, that maybe all of this doesn't happen if it's not for that.
Look, there are a lot of people who've done really good work with ALS. There are a lot of former athletes who had ALS who've done a lot of great work through their foundation. Nobody has more name recognition than Steve Gleason, and especially when you're just talking about locally, he is a superstar in New Orleans, and that would not be the case if you're talking about somebody like J.T. Gray or I'm going to forget his name. But when they had the season opener last year, Steve Gleason was an honorary captain, and he was an honorary captain with another former member of the Titans who was also a special teamer who was also going through his own ALS battle and raising money through his own foundation. But Steve Gleason's name is the one that's remembered, and he's been honored by the White House. He's gotten the Arthur Ashe Courage Award. He's had a major documentary made about him. My colleague Jeff Duncan just co-wrote a book with him that was very well received nationally. He's somebody who people associate with this, even though there have been countless people who've gone through this and who have done really great work with it. So it's part of the whole thing.
No doubt, and I'll talk to Jeff Duncan coming up at 5 o'clock on AFR for those that want to listen in with that. There's a lot of people that have a lot of perspective on Steve Gleason and his time there, but Jeff, having written that book, is certainly somebody I'm looking very much forward to talking to here coming up in about 3.5 hours. Luke, appreciate a little bit of time. Have a great weekend. We'll talk next week, man.
My pleasure, man. Talk to you soon.
Luke Johnson, Saints beat reporter for The Advocate, good enough to spend some time with us here on this Thursday when things are pretty slow in Saints land, but as you know, it's an incredible thing to think about Steve Gleason, his life, his journey, his impact, and what he's meant to the Saints organization and to the city of New Orleans, and even more so to those that are helping raise awareness and money for ALS, because he was in. As I qualified it earlier with Luke, I don't mean this in a negative way. I mean this in a positive way to say, like, if Drew Brees or Deuce McAllister was fighting this battle, everyone would immediately know who that was and understand the mission that was behind it. Steve Gleason was a nondescript player before he blocked that punt. He was just a nice special teams piece. And he blocks that punt, and it's a top 3 or 4 moment in the history of the franchise. And then he gets dealt this hand, and he has played it as well as admirably as anyone could possibly play it. And I just wonder, the things happen for a reason thing. That's a pretty powerful reason to have a guy elevate to that status and then to take up this battle and to fight as admirably as he's had. It's very, very cool stuff. If you're looking for our Saints coverage, you can certainly find it on YouTube at Hunt on Saints. Very, very, very much looking forward to talking to Jeff Duncan coming up on AFR at 5 o'clock, because as Luke mentioned, he's written a book, and there's probably no one as qualified to speak to the journey that Steve Gleason has been on in New Orleans than Jeff, because Jeff's been there to cover the entirety of it. So looking very much forward to all of that. Speaking of New Orleans, Pels made a draft pick last night, and Brandon Ingram's still on the team. I'll give my thoughts. Jordan's going to give his thoughts. I just saw him shaking his head, so we'll do all that coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Safety in the bathroom becomes an even bigger issue as we age, or as loved ones in your life age. And if a loved one in your life wants to stay home but may have some issues getting around the bathroom, or it could be a hazardous situation, let David Duvall and his team come in and help with that. They can put in non-slip floors. They can put in handrails next to the bathtub or the shower toilet areas. They can do walk-in bathtubs for convenience and safety. They can put benches in the shower. They do this kind of stuff all the time, and they're happy to do that if it gives you a little bit of peace of mind that the loved one in your life is safer walking around the bathroom each and every day. Check out the website, OneBathAndClosets.com. Check out the pictures of their great work. Look at the reviews that are right there from their satisfied customers, and get that free consultation with David Duvall and his team. And that's not all you got to do. Tell David Duvall and his team the Hunt Palmer Show sent you. $1,000 off of your project if you tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you over there. It's David Duvall and his team at One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $20,000 off the powerful Ram truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off F-150. $10,000 off the new 2024 Ford F-150. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial properties. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have.
Handegriff joined me and Jimmy Ott for the Friday edition of Live at Lunch from Rufino's on Highland Road. Troy Macker and Bruce Marshall among our guests as we get you ready for the weekend. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. from Rufino's on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Thanks to Luke Johnson for hanging out with us here on this Thursday, talking a little bit of Saints. Let's shift things over to the NBA draft. Before we get into the Pels pick, it was a tough watch last night on the draft. I had laundry and Myers bath duties last night for the beginning of the draft, and then I had to put him down. So then I got out to watch, and it was like 3 picks away from the Pelicans, and I fired up Twitter, and I was looking, and I already had the Pelicans pick when they were on the 18th pick.
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
And so I was like, well, this is one, ridiculous on the Twitter side of things. And 2, there are so many foreign players, which I think is great for basketball globally. Yeah. It's not great for me watching the draft. I don't know who these people are. And so, I feel like I'm a reasonably informed college basketball watcher. I'm not going to tell you that I'm grinding the Big East every Wednesday and I'm Pac-12 and at midnight every Saturday night. But, I watch a good bit of college basketball. And so I feel like I know a lot of the college guys. There are so many guys they are drafting that I don't. And so that's great when they get on the floor because they're awesome players. And it's like, oh, I love watching Luka. But if he gets drafted, I don't know who this is. So it's hard to watch the draft. honestly.
Well, to make you feel better, you're not alone with
Yeah.
feeling that way because I'm usually I kind of felt washed last night because I'm watching. I'm like, who are these people?
They're all from France.
Exactly. Like,
it's a bunch
yeah.
of French guys. I'm sure they're great players. I just don't know anything about them.
Nah, man. When I was a kid, I used to be able to tell you like the whole lottery. I used to be able to be like Kimball Walker and just names like that. Now you got Shabaki Buku from France, and I'm just like, who is this?
Probably a heck of a player.
Yeah,
Great
he's-
grab,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I don't know who that is. So
Exactly.
we sat there and waited for the Pels. The first question is, okay, are the Pels going to make a move? Are they going to move up? Are they going to move Brandon Ingram? And you figure that's probably not going to happen last night, but you got to at least have your eyes open and see if potentially something could happen. And some guys are sliding, and Dalton Connect's sitting there waiting in the green room, and you're kind of looking around like, what's going to go on? And inevitably, the Pelicans did what a lot of people thought they were going to do prior to the draft. If you looked at mock drafts, a lot of folks had Yves?
I
think it's Yves Misi.
Yeah.
Either way, he's a center from Baylor, and that's the guy that a lot of folks had targeted to the Pels, and they end up taking him. He is like most of the draft picks once you get past like 7, where he's a kid, 19, 18, 20 years old. He's raw and needs some time to develop, not going to be plugged right into your starting lineup, but he's got a lot of ability. And that's kind of what everybody's taken past like the first 7 picks. And so for me, and I'll get your thoughts on this, Jordan, in a second here, I feel like the Pels front office wants to change the way they play at the 5. I thought that Jonas Valanciunas had a really nice run in New Orleans. But he is what he is. He's a skilled offensive player who can score around the basket, who does not help you space the floor, and is not a good pick-and-roll defender or a rim protector. And they wanted to change that. They wanted to get more athletic there. They want to protect the rim, and they want to be able to space the floor a little bit better. And so as far as Misi goes, like, he's ridiculously athletic, and he's ridiculously long. He doesn't really do anything on offense except dunk and rebound. But he can move, and I think will grow into a plus defender on the perimeter guarding mobile 5s, which is what you've got to have in the NBA. So I understand the pick. I think he's probably ticketed for Birmingham, quite frankly, because I don't think there are minutes for him right now. They're going to have to deal with that at the veteran level. So is it super exciting if you're a Pelicans fan?
No.
Probably not, but you are a Pelicans fan, so you tell me.
So my problem, I don't have a problem with getting a big man. We needed a big, and I actually feel stupid because for months I was on here talking about we need a rip, we need a lob threat, we need somebody who's gonna catch lobs.
Yeah.
And then I sat back for a second. I'm like, wait a second, we have Zion Williamson, lob threat. Is there not a bigger, better lob threat than him? So it's not the lob threat. We need a point guard.
Well,
so like you just said, like you said about him, he has no offensive game but catching a pass and dunking it. We don't have a point guard to hand feed this kid so he can succeed to do those type of things. So that's why I'm like, okay. That's why I wanted the BI trade. So maybe Trae Young, DeJounte Murray.
And that's not off the table.
It's not off the table, but Haney had to call me off. Haney had to talk me off the ledge because this morning I was hot. I was hot this morning.
Well, look, to me, like, yes, you're right. They don't have an elite level point guard right now, and they don't have anybody to feed him the ball. He's not ready to be fed the ball. He's not ready to play. He's been playing basketball for like 5 years. He can't go out there and play right now against the Thunder. It'd be a nightmare. So the point guard that will eventually be playing with him if he becomes a starter for New Orleans, which we certainly hope he does, isn't on the team yet and won't be for another some period of time. So
a couple days.
So you can hope.
Yeah.
If you hope they move Brandon Ingram and go ahead and get some valuable pieces there and fundamentally change the way that they want to play basketball, that could definitely happen. But this is one of those picks. It's like baseball. Like, you got this guy, and he's probably going to help you in a few years. Like, you can be, if you're a Nationals fan and they take Dylan Cruz, like, that's super exciting, but you'll see him in 3 years. Yves Misi is not going to be a guy that you're going to see as a force in the league for another 12, 24 months.
And the problem I have with that is because we're not like a rebuilding team. Okay, we're not necessarily in that win now mode, but we're kind of trying to make the playoffs. So you're drafting a guy, obviously he's 18. Matter of fact, he's born in 2005, man.
Yeah.
What is going on?
I was a senior in high school in 2005.
Yeah, I was 5 years old in 2005. So it's like, what is going on? But like, you draft this kid, it's all potential. So it's all potential.
Exactly. And the deal is, like, you're not general. I mean, I could pick every single pick in the draft by the number and find you a stud that was drafted there. I can find you a stud that was drafted 21st. I can find you a stud that was drafted 58. I can find you a stud that was drafted 11th. in the history of the league, you can find the number whatever you want. But the fact of the matter is, once you get out of the lottery and you get into the 20s, you're really not going to find, generally speaking, a great player at that spot. You've got to go ahead and find your great players on your team if you get high lottery picks or you make trades and sign free agents. The Pels can't sign great free agents. It's not going to happen. So what they've got to do is draft potential where you can in the draft. Hope you hit on some of those as far as role players. And I think some of the guys that they've drafted, I mean, Trey Murphy looks really, really good.
Yeah, Trey and Herb.
Herb looks really, really good. And of course, you drafted Zion, and now you've got to go work the trade market and make that click. It's clear they want to go a little bit of a different direction. And I think if you listen to what you heard from the Pelicans front office, like they want to move Brandon Ingram if he wants the max deal. I don't think they're going to pay him the 40 plus. So it's got to be either he takes a little bit of a discount or they move him. And that's where you got to get your next role. That's where you get your next big piece.
If we give Brandon Ingram $200 million,
yes, you have a big problem.
I might just enter the transfer portal. I might end up like one of these college kids. I need to be in the transfer portal because 200. All right, I love Brandon Ingram. $200 million. You don't 8 points in the elimination game last year is not $200 million.
And I mean, him and Zion were good this past year.
Yeah.
Were they a threat to make the conference final?
No,
I don't think so.
No.
You've kind of seen what those guys are. They're not pups anymore. They're not 21 anymore. They're in their prime. They're in their mid-20s, and it looks okay. It's not a complete failure.
No.
It just looks okay, and that's not gonna get it done. Like okay is not good enough.
Okay is good for the East. We're in the West.
That's right. West, that's
not good enough.
That is, you're correct. And so, were you surprised to see Dalton Connect slide as much as he did? I saw a bunch of NBA draft guys that were just livid over it.
A little bit because of his age, but the team he went to was probably the best case scenario.
Yeah. I'm sure he's pumped.
Yeah. Oh, Lakers, JJ Redick gonna draw up a nice play for him, so I think he's gonna.
But that's one of those deals. That was such a crazy story because he goes to junior college and then he ends up, at Northern Colorado and then he ends up at Tennessee. And you hear some whispers in the fall like, this dude's getting buckets in inter squads. And you're like, well, how good is he? He was real good. He was the SEC Player of the Year and was a spearhead of a nice tournament run. And everybody kind of thought he was going to go in the top 8. And then all of a sudden he's sliding. And it happens every year in every sport. Somebody falls further than you thought they would. But he did. The positive, though, when you fall like that is you generally go to a little bit better situation. And seems like he did. So Yves Missi to the New Orleans Pelicans, Baylor center, 6'11", 235, 21st pick. We'll see what the Pelicans do this evening, if anything, here in the second round. By the way, NBA draft 2 days? I don't think so. Let's go ahead and pack that into one. We can make it happen.
It should be one day.
We can make that work, but we'll see. We'll see what the Pels end up doing this evening. We're going to take a timeout. When we come back, New Baton Rouge Community College head baseball coach, that is Brandon Schmidt. He's going to join us on the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Look, there are disturbances out there in the Atlantic. It's not what we like to hear, but it's inevitable this time of year. The time to worry about a home standby generator is not after the storm blows through. It's right now. Give Boudreaux's Electric a phone call today and start the process of getting that Generac home standby generator installed at your home or your business. If you're a business owner, you've got a building and it's not going to go so hot if there's an afternoon storm that runs through here and your entire power goes out. Boudreaux's Electric can help you with that generator for your commercial property. It's 985-397-1562. 985-397-1562. Neil and Melissa have been running Boudreaux's Electric for 40 years. Every single standby generator that you get, a Generac, is going to be insured with a 7 to 10 year warranty on that. Give yourself the peace of mind of knowing the power is not going to go out on you, whether you ride out a storm here in South Louisiana or you head and evacuate and come back to a house that wouldn't have power but now does because of your Generac generator from the folks at Boudreaux's Electric. 985-397-1562 or online at boudreauxelectrical.com.
Get the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge app powered by Bayou Ford and tap the microphone icon to send us your thoughts in an audio message. Your message could be played on air during Off the Bench with Esther and T-Bob, The Hunt Palmer Show, and after further review with Matt Moscone.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play. with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. It's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, party plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR. Round 1 of the NBA draft in the books. We'll talk about how the Pelicans fared, preview the rest of the draft, and the latest in college baseball's transfer portal. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Wrapping up hour number 1. If you head out to Pete Goolsbee Field this summer, you'll find the Baton Rouge Rougarou. If you head out next spring, you'll find the Baton Rouge Community College Bears and their new head baseball coach, Brandon Schmidt. Brandon comes from Hendrix College up in Conway, Arkansas, where he was the pitching coach and recruiting coordinator. He joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Brandon, thanks so much for the time. How are you?
Man, I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm doing well, man. Getting settled into Baton Rouge over the last week and a half or so. Finding some good spots to eat around here, that's for sure.
Tell me about one. What have you enjoyed eating so far?
Mike Anderson
Okay.
is right around me. Have you guys had that?
So the famous story is, of course, I've had Mike Anderson. The famous story is that Ed Ogeron brought Joe Burrow in for a visit. They went to Mike Anderson's, didn't have crawfish, so he had somebody go get crawfish and bring them in, and that was part of the visit that brought Joe Burrow to Baton Rouge. So at least a storied restaurant that you made it to, and also a delicious one.
Good. I'm starting off on a good note then.
Tell us about why Baton Rouge Community College. I know you spent a lot of time in the state of Arkansas in your baseball life.
Sure. Man, I think that, you kind of alluded to the transfer portal stuff, is definitely something that is intriguing at the point right now. I think you look at college baseball as, as a whole, I don't know if there's really many other places you want to be right now other than the state of Louisiana for college baseball. 7 four-year universities were in a regional this year. I think that, that is a testament to where Louisiana baseball is at. I think that that's a testament to where the universities are at. And so if I can be a junior college staple in the state of Louisiana and then throughout the South, man, I think that this is a really great opportunity to kind of expand the coaching roles that I've had and been very fortunate to be under some unbelievable head coaches. RJ Thomas for the last couple of years has really kind of molded and made some things that I'm pretty excited about, putting my own stamp on. So, again, man, Brock over here at BRCC was unbelievable in the hiring process, and to just come to a culture that's been baseball. You know, you look at LSU and the storied tradition there is there, to be in the same city as that, to work with Coach Johnson and the LSU staff, man, I'm really excited to build some things over at BRCC and Pete Goolsby Field that will be a staple years to come.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, obviously LSU is why we get a lot of listeners in this market because we're so passionate about LSU. But I think a lot of people are also really cognizant of how Delgado has had an incredible run over New Orleans. LSU Eunice has won national championships, and both of those have put players into LSU's program over the years. I mean, how good is Louisiana junior college baseball?
It's up there with the best. It's up there with Texas and Florida. I think you look at Texas and Florida as two of the top tier. I think you look at LSU, you look at Louisiana as a state. Man, I wouldn't say that it's not better than. If it is, I think that it's up there with them. And so I think that you look at that and you kind of see from the high school ranks, man, just in the 2 or 3 weeks that we've really gotten into the recruiting side of things, now I've got my staff finalized. Oh my gosh, the talent in this area, Denham Springs, Live Oak, getting down into New Orleans, the talent's it's amazing. And so you look at Louisiana as a state, it's up there with the best of them. And so to be able to recruit in-state while bringing some out-of-state recruiting focus as well. Texas has been a big spot that I've recruited the last couple of years. I think you're going to see that the game of baseball is still going to be the same, but the caliber of baseball is going to be a step better. And hopefully we're competing with Delgado, and hopefully we're talked to Coach Willis over there at LSU Eunice. So I say, man, an unbelievable program that they've had. But I think that you're going to see a different caliber of baseball played with the Bears over the next couple of years. It's going to rival some of that.
Awesome. We're chatting with Brandon Smith, Baton Rouge Community College, new baseball coach over there. And look, I read a lot of quotes. I do talk to some coaches, and it's a new era in collegiate athletics where NIL and transfer portal and things that you're talking about. Community college coaches are very used to the transfer portal because that's the lifeblood of the school. It's in and it's out. And I don't know that you're dealing with as much NIL stuff as some of the guys at the D1 level. What do you enjoy the most about junior college baseball?
Man, I'll be honest with you, and I think that over the last 2 years, really, there at Hendricks, I saw this, I loved the development from freshman to sophomore year. I think that that's one of the most impactful years that you can have as a freshman. And so to be able to make more of those impacts on a year-to-year basis excites me. Being able to mold young men into really, really talented baseball players throughout their career, it starts with that freshman year. It starts with that kid getting a ton of development, a ton of one-on-one time. That's the part that excites me the most, getting to the junior college ranks of you now get that new face every single year of what's the story behind you? What can I learn about you? How can we grow together? How can we develop together? And then where are we going from there? I'm building a big old banner that's going to be there at Pete Goolsby Field. That's going to have all of our former players, where they ended up, draft picks even. And so I'm really excited to see how that board grows over the next 2 years. And it starts with this year. It started in the last 2 days of me making contacts with all the 4 years. So building the relationships and then, growing young men from year to year, I think is something I'm pretty excited about.
We're fired up about it as well. We'll see you out there at Pete Goolsby Field in the springtime. He's Brandon Schmidt, the fourth baseball coach in Baton Rouge Community College history. Appreciate some time, Brandon.
Thank you, guys.
Always enjoy talking baseball with those guys. I've gotten a chance to go out to Pete Goolsby a few times over the last couple of years, calling some Rougarou games. It's a great place to go out there and just watch some baseball. You can get up close to the action. It's very affordable, and look, baseball is baseball to me. I love watching it, and I was impressed just talking with Brandon there. His energy, his personality. I think he's going to be. It matches Brock Cantrell's energy and personality, quite frankly. So I think it's going to be a great match. And BRCC has had some rough years on the diamond over the last few years, and hopefully Brandon can pump some life into that. Because as we talked about, like Eunice rocking and rolling, Delgado rocking and rolling. There are great junior college programs in this state, and Baton Rouge Community College certainly has every opportunity to become another one of those, and we'll be pulling for Brandon for sure, and we appreciate a little bit of his time here on this Thursday. Our Thursday shows are brought to you by Rouse's. Always tell you, download the Rouse's app. Makes grocery shopping so very easy. If you're looking to get your grocery shopping done for the weekend, if you're getting a big group together for 4th of July and need to have enough food, Rouse's can help you out on that. I know it's going to be a big grilling week next week with the burgers, the hot dogs, the steak, everything. You can find it all over at Rouse's, right there in the back in the butcher shop at Burbank and Lee. They've got awesome opportunities with steaks like ribeyes, fillets. They've also got your burgers. They've got stuffed burgers. There's stuff like bacon and cheese, stuff with mustard and blue cheese, that kind of stuff. They got all the things you can need if you just want to eat some sandwich trays, ice cream, which is a big deal coming up. They got you covered over at Rouse's. Download that Rouse's app. Do your shopping right there at the tip of your fingers. You can go ahead and pick it up when you set that pickup time. As long as you spend $35, you don't spend an extra cent on the curbside pickup. Rouse's Markets, official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Missed any of hour number one? You can always catch it on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound. You can always find us on the website, 1045ESPN.com. We've got all the shows, OTB, Live at Lunch, Hunt Palmer Show, AFR. They're all there. You can also find us on YouTube as well. I've got 2 channels we'd love you to check out on YouTube. Hunt on Saints all year round. Hunt on LSU, all LSU football, whether it's on the field or recruiting all year round. If you subscribe to those channels, we would certainly appreciate it. We opened the show today talking MajorLeagueBaseball.com's top 250 and where LSU's current team and their high school signees rest on that list. You can check that out and kind of look at some of the dollar amounts that are attached to some of those slots. Luke Johnson with us talking about Steve Gleason, who will be honored with the Archer Ashe Courage Award at the ESPYs. Pelicans draft. My thoughts, Jordan's thoughts on all of that. Catch all that on demand. We got a busy hour number 2 coming at you. A lot of football. Bowl projections are out from Athlon. Got some SEC win totals from CBS Sports. EA Sports has made everybody mad with their offense rankings and defensive rankings for this video game that's coming out. And Billy Embody is going to talk some recruiting with us at 2:30. So all of that is coming up in hour number 2. We're going to step aside for SportsCenter, get you caught up on some national headlines, invite you to come right on back, talk some football for the second hour. You're listening to a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $20,000 off the powerful Ram truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
I'm Doug Brown. For the first time at the NBA Draft, it's day 2. Coverage starts at 4 Eastern on ESPN Radio and TV. Among the players still available, Duke's Kyle Filipowski and USC's Bronny James. ESPN NBA analyst and evil genius Tim Legler thinks the Celtics should draft James.
54th pick. We renewed the Cold War between the Celtics and the Lakers. The Boston Celtics take Bronny James, and they sent a ransom note to the Lakers. We have your son. We have your son. If you want him back, it's going to take Austin Reeves.
Tim Legler on First Take. Right now, the Raptors hold the first pick of the second round. Team USA coach Steve Kerr says all 12 players, including Kawhi Leonard, will report for training camp next week. Leonard missed the last 3 playoff games for the Clippers with a nagging right knee injury. Calling it a mutual decision, the Edmonton Oilers will not renew the contract of GM Ken Holland. He had been in the job for the last 5 years. The Oilers forced Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Final.
Hey, it's Evan Cohen coming up Friday. Paul George, James Harden, Klay Thompson. With free agency about to start, I'll tell you where they'll all land before free agency begins. It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary?
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show. The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets. Live from the Mercedes-Benz Baton Rouge Studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're brought to you by Rouse's Markets. Billy Embody talking recruiting in 30 minutes. Fired up to be here on this Thursday. We are working towards the weekend and pumped up. You are hanging out with us. It is college football preseason magazine season, and I will still personally go purchase the hard copies. I like to have the hard copies. Our whole family hangs out at Falls River on the 4th of July. I will have the hard copies out there, just getting some sun and reading some magazines, kind of getting prepped for football. But you can also find some of the information online as well, and that's something we're going to dive into over the next few weeks too. And one of the things that I got to today online was the Athlon preseason college football bowl projections. Now, I realize that you can take these with a grain of salt, because we don't really know anything about what's going to go on from Labor Day through Christmas. But there are some aspects of this that are new because the playoff is new, and I think it paints an interesting picture of what you're really competing against. So we'll start with LSU. Where does Athlon have LSU? Well, they've got LSU pegged to go to the Gator Bowl.
Come on.
And that doesn't excite anybody. I get it. But let me go a little bit further. Gator Bowl against Miami, that used to be a reasonable thing. Back 20 years ago, you go 9-3, you make the Gator Bowl against Miami. Like, okay, that's not bad. The weather's good over there. Miami's a perennial, big name program. You might just skip over there for New Year's Day. Like, that'd be a nice finish to the season 20 years ago.
Yes.
Now it's a mitigated disaster. It's just awful. But let me go a little bit further and peel back this onion. We know that the top-rated SEC team that is not in the playoff goes to the Citrus Bowl. And the Citrus Bowl in this ranking has Missouri against Iowa. I believe in this ranking, it has Missouri and LSU as the top two SEC teams that don't make the college football playoff. That's what this reads like to me. Now, you realize that the Citrus Bowl does have that spot, and then the SEC works to assign some other things, so you can't take it literally, but I can basically infer that's what they're telling me. So the question is, how many SEC teams are above LSU and Missouri that do make the playoff, and then what does that need to look like? They've got the college football playoff projections, and they've got the 1 seed is Georgia, the 2 seed Ohio State, the 3 seed Florida State, and the 4 seed Utah. That's your SEC champ in Georgia, your Big Ten champ in Ohio State, your ACC champ in Florida, and Utah, I believe, is in the Big 12. I think that sounds right to me. So that's your top 4. It's got one SEC team in it. Then you go 5 through 12, and you've got Oregon, Texas, another SEC team, so that's a second. Ole Miss, another SEC team, that's a third. Bama, another SEC team, that's a fourth. That's 6, 7, 8 in the rankings. And then you've got Michigan, Liberty, best group of 5 team, Notre Dame, and Penn State. That's what you're looking at with this top 12. It has 4 SEC teams in it. For my entire life, I've looked at this and said, you better win the SEC to have a chance to win a national championship. That was certainly the case in the BCS era until we got to that fateful day when Bama got in over Oklahoma State. But Tennessee was the best team in 2001, and LSU beat them in the SEC championship team. You're out. Well, that was how this thing was structured. You had to win the Southeastern Conference. Certainly before, the BCS, when we had everybody playing in their own bowl games, you needed to win your conference. And then we got to a 4-team playoff, and you could see a scenario where you didn't win your conference and got in. It certainly happened in a 4-team playoff. You had to be in the SEC. But you really needed to go 11-1 or 12-0 to have any chance. And we know that now that's not the case. Now, you really just need to go 10-2, maybe 9-3, and get into the top 4 of the SEC. Now, it's a 16-team league, so there's a lot of teams fighting for that, but it totally, in my mind, changes our viewpoint on what we're looking at in the middle of the summer and as we creep towards August and get closer to Labor Day. I had to frame my entire thought on the season of, can they really go 11-1? Is that possible? And most of the time, when I sat there on Labor Day and said, can they go 11-1? My answer was no. And that's not real comfortable. Y'all know how I feel about that. I'm trying to win championships, and I realize how difficult that's going to be. And it almost kind of dampens my long-term view because I realize how long a tightrope wire you have to walk to get there. And I'll contrast that with baseball, where this past year, LSU stunk on ice for 5 weeks. And if that happens in football, turn out the lights. When's basketball season? When's baseball practice happening? What's the recruiting class look like? Who are we going to fire? What coach is out of here? That's what it turns into if you have a bad few weeks. I don't like that. I like the fact that baseball was terrible for 5 weeks, and then when Memorial Day rolled around, we're going, oh my God, they figured it out. They got a chance. And now we can do that in football. And LSU didn't make it happen because they made their road too difficult. And if you do have 2 bad weeks in October, you may have to go play Ohio State and Columbus. Tough break. That's what you got to do. And that's what happened to LSU baseball this year. But you could also be Ole Miss from 3 years ago in baseball, get hot, and there you go. Now we're running. Matt gave the example on After Further Review yesterday about the 2001 team. They had a bad month. By the time that thing rolled around, and Rohan Davey, Josh Reed, Robert Royal were throwing that thing all over the place, they were a handful. And Illinois found out about it. And I don't think they would have beat Miami, but they'd have been a force late in the season. And now we can start to talk about that. I don't have to go 11-1. I'm in a war down the stretch, based on this projection, with Bama, with Texas, and with Ole Miss. That's who I'm fighting. And if one of them drops down, 12 teams have to go. And I don't think they're going to dig too deep into the Big 12. I don't think the 4 seed in the ACC is getting there. Only the Big 10 and the SEC have this wiggle room, in my estimation. Now, every year is going to be different. But you really just need to kind of get in the top 4. And in this bowl projection, LSU doesn't. They probably finish 6th, which probably tells me they win 8-4. And 8-4 is not going to be good enough. But 9-3 might be, and 10-2 is. And for those that would look at this and say, well, I don't want to, you shouldn't be able to lose 2 games. This is college football is the best regular season we got. I go, well, if you really want to fight and 10-2 is not good enough, we'll go 11-1 or 12-0. You get a bye. You don't have to worry about playing that extra game on campus. So it is still interesting. This, to me, is awesome, and it completely changes the prism with which I view it. In the BCS era, if LSU goes to Vegas and loses to USC, you can just about turn out those lights. Not 100%, but just about. In this 12-team playoff era, you lose to USC, all right, you actually have more wiggle room. You can still go to College Station and lose. You can still have Ole Miss come in here and beat you. You can still have Alabama come in here and beat you. And you can still be okay as long as you play the rest of them well. I think that's better. It's more interesting. It's more to talk about. We've sat here through a couple of terrible seasons 3 and 4 years ago. There's nothing to talk about halfway through except who they're firing. I don't want to do that. Let's talk about football. Let's find a way to right the ship. What can they get better at? And if they're playing great and they're undefeated and they're 8-0, you better get that bye. How are they going to get a bye? Who are they fighting with for that? Can they lose a game and still keep the bye? It's just more interesting. This is better. And I know there are a lot of people that say, I don't want Liberty playing for a national championship as the 12 seed in the playoff. I don't mean in the final. I don't need a 3-loss Penn State sneaking in the back end. I just disagree. Give me the more intrigue. And in this situation, you're going to have a first round where Alabama plays at Michigan. How is that not awesome? Texas plays at Notre Dame. How is that not awesome? Ole Miss goes to Penn State. Might white that thing out in December. You're going to have Lane Kiffin freezing cold. A bunch of Mississippi boys going up there to play in a whiteout in December when it's 11 degrees in Happy Valley. That's awesome. And in this situation, they actually played that round out. And you've got Georgia, Bama in the Sugar Bowl, Utah, Oregon in the Fiesta Bowl, Florida State, Texas in the Peach Bowl, Ohio State and Ole Miss in the Rose Bowl. Give me all of it. I can't imagine thinking this is a bad thing. Now, a bad thing is LSU actually showing up and playing in the Gator Bowl. I don't want that. But let's try to avoid it and get into this really awesome playoff. I'm more excited about the future of college football than I am about what I saw in the past. I think it's going to be more interesting. I think it's going to be more engaging. And I'm all for it. So, no, I don't think that reading these college football bowl projections on June the 27th is gospel. But I do think what is set in stone for me is that this is more interesting. Take your thoughts on it. The Bayou Ford chat or on Twitter. Our LSU content you can find on YouTube. Hunt on LSU is where you can find it. EA Sports is making everybody cranky. I'm not here to talk about video games, but we're going to mention some stuff in the next segment. Come back with us.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Every shot, every goal, ESPN Bet has fans covered for the biggest moments on the road to a championship. The exclusive sportsbook of ESPN is the only place to find special offers and promotions from your favorite ESPN shows and personalities throughout the playoffs. New users can get a bet reset up to $1,000 in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Download ESPN Bet today. What a play. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. In partnership with the Bears Lake Charles. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
There's nothing chill about a hot, sweaty line. Unless you add Mountain Cold Refreshment. Coors Light, choose chill.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. So it's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks.
Charles Handegriff joined me and Jimmy Odd for the Friday edition of Live at Lunch from Rufino's on Highland Road. Troy Macker and Bruce Marshall among our guests as we get you ready for the weekend. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. from Rufino's on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
So the marketing machine that is EA Sports College Football 25 continues to put out content, and the internet is just eating it up. And again, not anything that I'm going to take very seriously, and I don't even think I'm going to get the game because I don't have a console to play it on. But I think it's interesting the way they value LSU in terms of their ratings. For those that don't play video games, you rate just about everybody on a scale of 0 to 100. 0 to 99, I should say. And they've got the top 25 offenses entering the season in college football. They got Georgia and Oregon tied at number 1 at 94 overall. Got Carson back and a ton of really good players there for Georgia. Dylan Gabriel up at Oregon, and they've had a good offense with Bo Nix the last couple of years. So you figure they should pick up where they left off, and that's fine. Bama's there at number 3. For those that are going to play the game, I would imagine Jalen Milroe is going to be an absolute cheat code to be able to run like that. At quarterback is just very difficult to deal with. Got Texas at 91 overall as well, and then basically tied for 5th. You've got a bunch of teams at 89 overall. Ohio State, Miami, Colorado with Shedeur Sanders, Missouri, Brady Cook is back. And LSU is tied right there at 5th. at an 89 overall. And it just strikes me that LSU is so highly thought of, not just because Jaden Daniels won the Heisman last year and they had 2 first-round wide receivers, but those guys are gone, and the game still thinks LSU is great on offense. Now, I've told you, I feel really good about how LSU is going to be offensively this year. I think the offensive line from a pass protection standpoint is going to be fantastic. I have my questions on their run blocking. I think at running back, they've got a lot of talent, and I think at wide receiver, that talent's got to come together. I love what they've got at tight end as well. So I think that the team is going to be good offensively, and if you're going to play the game, I think you're going to have a lot of success with LSU because their offensive line is probably going to be monstrous on this game.
Yeah.
So that's a positive there, LSU at 89, and I don't have any real qualms with that. However, I think there are some fan bases that might have some qualms here. Ole Miss, that's like thought of as an offensive power in terms of the sport with the personality of Lane Kiffin and what he's done with quarterbacks. They're down at number 13 on this list, which is not the most egregious, in my opinion, of the SEC teams. I'm sorry. Not having Tennessee anywhere in the top 25
Ooh, I didn't
feels
see that.
like a bit much. I'll just say, like, that offense is pretty good.
Good eye, because I didn't see that. I was more on the fact Ole Miss was so low. Tennessee's not on.
They're
at
not
all.
on it. They're going fast. They got tempo. They got hype. Like they've got a 5-star quarterback in Nico Iamaleava. Like they seem to be like one of the best offensive brands in the sport, and they're nowhere to be found in the top 25 offenses. Interestingly enough, Lincoln Riley doesn't have as much clout here without Caleb Williams. His USC Trojans down at number 25 on this list. So just interesting there. Let's go to defense, where I will be quite honest with you. I saw this tweet come out, and it had the top 25 defenses. I immediately quote tweeted that tweet and just put LSU didn't make it, barely, as a joke. Like, ah, ha, ha, ha. And then I actually looked at the tweet. LSU did make it on the top 25 defenses. They've got LSU as the 18th best defense in the country. Either Blake Baker has a magic wand or someone at EAA is dead drunk. One of the two.
Well, look, Hunt, to do you one better, look who's at number 16.
I saw that. That's awful.
That's awful.
Southern Cal is number 16. That's like people drink in the morning in the summer. You're on vacation. You're playing golf. You're not working. People might have some better. People are drunk doing this game. There is no shot. LSU is the 18th best defense in the country. There's less of a shot that Southern Cal is the 16th best defense in the country. And there is even less of a shot that Colorado is the 20th best defense in the country. Colorado might have been worse than LSU on defense last year, and I don't think anybody can be worse than LSU was last year on defense. This
Colorado,
is quite poor.
USC, maybe I didn't watch US. Maybe I'm tripping because I could have sworn USC was Swiss cheese out there. Like that Colorado game, it was like, is anybody going to get a stop at some point?
No. LSU didn't get a stop for 4 months, so that didn't happen. There are plenty of teams that had atrocious defenses on this list. Florida was awful on defense last year. They're number 25 on this list. I'll tell you this. If LSU actually does have the 18th best defense in the country, which last year they were in the 80s, if they've got the 18th best defense in the country this year, you can go ahead and book your playoff tickets.
Yes.
They will be there because they're going to be functional enough on offense. If they're 18th in the country on defense, then God bless them. There are a couple, the names at the top of the list you would expect. Ohio State's 1, Georgia's 2, Oregon's 3, that's the Dan Lanning impact.
Yeah.
Alabama 4, Clemson 5, Notre Dame at 6. And you go down the list, and I don't know what Iowa's going to have on defense this coming year. But just based on last year and the year before that, where they were winning games like 7-3 and 10-7, they just deserve to be respected a little bit more. When you have to play defense on the opposite side of the worst offense ever constructed in the history of the sport, you should get a little more respect in the game than number 13. I would have put Iowa like number 1, just based on just giving them their props. If the guys from that defense last year who had to do that and go to practice every day knowing that their offense on Saturday had no chance to score double digits, they deserve at least to enjoy playing the game and should be the best unit on the team. So look, that's my take on Iowa.
I got a question.
Yes.
At this point, we're picking different color apples, but do you really think Ohio State is better defense than Georgia? going into the season right now? If you had to pick, who would be the
No, but I think it's apples.
Yeah,
and I mean, I think
you know.
it's one and one. Like I think that Ohio State and Georgia are both great. I don't know that Oregon's quite earned my respect in that sense, like those other two programs have. And even though Alabama loses Caleb Downs and they lost some guys that should be on this unit, I trust the fact that they've restocked the shelves and they'll be good. I don't have any real qualms with the top of this list and the teams they put in it. The real issue is like some of the teams they put on the back end, like LSU, USC, and Colorado were like historically bad on defense.
bad.
I mean, this was quite literally the worst defense LSU has ever fielded last year. And I know there's a new coordinator, and I know that some new faces have come in, but like, dude, the defense was just a sieve. And to put like A&M actually had a pretty good defense last year, and they've got a really good defensive coach who's come in and some talent there. Now I realize some of their 5 stars left. But they come in after LSU at number 19. It says enough when I didn't even read the graphic. I just assumed LSU wasn't in it and went ahead and tweeted out like, oh, they didn't quite make it. And then they actually were in the top 20. I'm curious how much of that is accurate. And how much of it, honestly, they're just trying to sell video games.
I think it's
They know
brand.
LSU has a big brand.
Yeah, it's brand.
LSU has a lot of fans that might buy the game. You say, oh, the defense is going to be pretty good. People are like, oh, I might buy the game. I thought they were going to be terrible. I don't know what the marketing thought was behind it. But to have LSU as a top 20 defense in the country, I'll take it, and I simply don't believe it. So that's my look at the top 25 defenses and offenses in college football per EA Sport. Are you going to buy the game?
It's already pre-ordered. You ain't got to worry about me buying it.
All
It's
right.
already pre-ordered.
I mean, how old were you when they stopped making it? It was like 14 or 15?
So if it comes out 2014, it comes out the year before, like leading up to that season. So I was 13 when the last one came out. And I remember, my dad brought me to the midnight release at GameStop. Back when we used to go to GameStop.
Absolutely. I used to we generally would go on our like little vacation, which would be like a Thursday to Sunday thing. In July, and sometimes when we'd come back, I'd make us go to the store to get NCAA, and I played it a ton through college, and then it just it went away, and then I stopped playing video games altogether. But I gotta say, like, this has got to be like T-Bob's dream because there's so much talk about video games in like on radio and like on Twitter. Like, this is definitely his corner of the store. I'm sure he's super fired up about it. I won't buy this game, as I've said a few times. If the Myers man gets old enough to want to play video games, we may look into that. He's 2.5 and wants to stare at YouTube monster trucks all day, so we're not quite there. But we'll eventually make that leap, and we'll play some college football via EA. But not today. LSU in the top 20 in defenses. That's something. All right, our Thursday show is brought to you by Rouse's Markets, official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. We'll talk some LSU football recruiting, specifically on a wide receiver perspective. CJ Wiley from Georgia yesterday committed to Florida State. Where's LSU's next lean from a wide receiver perspective? We'll talk about all of that with our guy Billy Embody coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio, video, security solutions, avssla.com is the website. Mitchell Fisher and his local team are fantastic. I tell you all the time, they can help you with your audio and your surround sound. They can help you with your video and your televisions. They can help you with your security as well. But one of the things I don't mention every single day that I probably should a little bit more is their mesh Wi-Fi that they can install at your home. If you really struggle to get the appropriate Wi-Fi signal all over your home, because sometimes you get too far away from the router or for whatever reason you live in a spot that just doesn't get great internet, let Audio Video Security Solutions come in and install that mesh Wi-Fi to boost that signal equally all over your home. It can make life a lot easier, especially if you work from home or you want to do a lot of streaming on the TV in the back room, but you can't because you don't get strong enough signal. They can help you. It's Audio Video Security Solutions. Check them out on Instagram, AVSS_BR. You can always see great pictures of the things they can help you with. You can also check them out online. It's AVSSLA.com. I'm going to give you Mitchell Fisher's cell phone number. He's the owner of the company. He will help walk you through this entire process, and I can promise he's going to be very present through the entire process for you. It's 225-439-7920. 439-7920. That's Mitchell Fisher's cell phone number. He's the dude at Audio Video Security Solutions at AVSSLA.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward. always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net. Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR. Round 1 of the NBA draft in the books. We'll talk about how the Pelicans fared, preview the rest of the draft, and the latest in college baseball's transfer portal. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Cruton never sleeps. Although LSU staff is, I believe, on vacation this week, which is very, very rare in that profession. But there's been a lot going on in the recruiting world, and we want to talk recruiting. We had two of our guys over at On 3, part of the Bengal Tiger team. Billy Embody, certainly that. He joins on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Billy, how are you?
Doing well. How about you?
Doing quite well. Rarely is there a huge surprise in the recruiting scene. Generally, somebody's got a reasonable feel as to what's going on, but I did not see a lot of C.J. Wiley to Florida State on the internets over the last few days, and that was his selection. Were you surprised at the 4-star Georgia wide receiver?
You know, it's funny when we hear about recruiting surprises and how they come together, or maybe a backstory or something you were told before the commitment happens. Well, kind of on the eve of his recruitment, I was told, hey, Florida State made a pretty strong late run at C.J. Wiley to kind of, try and sway things just a little bit more. And I don't think it's enough, but something to pay attention to at least. And so I had written that and at the same time said, most people don't think that he's going to end up at FSU, though. He's going to end up at Georgia, staying in state, or ending up at LSU, which had, really pushed hard for him over the last, month and a half, 2 months. And his dad and mom both went there, and there's all these connections. And Meanwhile, Florida State had just buckled in and sealed the deal. Another thing, too, they had the last official visit this summer. So it really paid off for the Seminoles with the addition of C.J. Wiley. So I was surprised, but at the same token, somebody who, at least I trust told me, hey, I heard there was a little bit of a late run. Not sure it's going to be enough, though. So kind of half surprised, I guess, right?
This is not exactly what I brought you on to talk about, but just kind of big picture. LSU fans very familiar with Florida State over the last 2 years. The Seminoles beating LSU to open both seasons. Do you think Mike Norvell's got that thing there to stay? Are they going to be a national threat for the years to come based on how they're recruiting and handling the transfer portal?
I think they're one of the blueprints in terms of how you've handled the portal top to bottom and balancing it with high school recruiting. And, Florida State, from what I see kind of as an outsider, not on that beat, they do some quality high school recruiting. They're in on some big names. And, at the same time, it doesn't seem like they're loading up with, 28 signees from the high school ranks because they want to save room for some of those portal targets. I mean, they beefed up their defensive line through that strategy over the last couple of seasons. And, we've seen that up close following LSU's, games against them. And so I think they are one of the blueprints for how to attack the balance between the portal and the high school ranks. So, yeah, pretty high on Mike Norvell, and he's adapted really well to it with just his approach at FSU. And, I mean, C.J. Wiley is another big-bodied receiver, so they had a little bit of a streak of those guys that they could kind of sell on how they wanted to use them too.
Certainly, Keon Coleman fit that bill very nicely over there in Tallahassee. We'll see what C.J. Wiley can do. LSU now has to move on without C.J. Wiley and kind of pick where their next guy comes from in this cycle. I know Khalil Lockett and Jamie French are two guys that we've talked about a lot. It sounds like Lockett has maybe put a decision date in the near future. What can you tell us about his recruitment and what kind of player he is and what LSU's chances are there?
Yeah, Khalil Lockett reminds me a little bit of Justin Jefferson in his body coming out of high school, his route running, and all of those things. I think he's probably somebody that needs a weight room for a year when he gets to the college level, and he does have a whole nother year, but he does have some strength that needs to be gained, both in his upper and lower body. So he could be somebody that maybe takes a minute to develop. But he's set a decision date for August, in early August, I believe. And I think this is one that could be kind of similar to how it's been throughout his recruitment. He's a flavor of the week kind of recruitment. We've seen LSU hold a ton of confidence, a ton of buzz around the Tigers. We've seen Texas been the early, flavor of the early recruitment, and then A&M maybe picked up a little bit of buzz. Alabama's entered the mix and gotten an official visit. Florida State's been heavily involved. It could go a number of different ways with his recruitment and his decision. I at this point probably too early to call in terms of what he actually does, but I can tell you it's going to be interesting because that's what his entire recruitment has been so far.
What about Jamie French?
Yeah, I think LSU did a nice job trying to sell him on the fact that he does have all sorts of family in Louisiana. He's got those ties to the region. I'll tell you what, as a sophomore, I thought Jamie French would have been a shoo-in to end up at LSU because of how high Cortez Hankton was on him and just those ties to Louisiana. But as his recruitment's developed, we saw him make an early commitment to Alabama. The coaching change led to him opening that up. And now it's been Alabama, LSU, and Miami. Texas, LSU, and Miami that have really emerged as the top schools in that recruitment. And it's tough for me to not see him ending up at Texas, which, if they don't end up getting Khalil Lockett, will certainly mean that LSU is going to have to find somebody either as a late riser or somebody in Louisiana who can be a part of this receiver class. And then they're going to have to probably attack the transfer portal really hard because they're in a position where once you lose Kyron Lacey and who knows if somebody else goes pro or leaves, you're going to need more talent brought in through the transfer portal. And I think the receiver position is going to be one where they're going to have to address again if they don't feel like they really hit on some senior season type evaluations if they don't come away with like a Khalid Lockett.
Are you surprised that I wouldn't say it's a struggle. I mean, they do have Teron Francis, and they've been in the mix for some really, really good players, and we'll see what happens over the next couple of months. But surprised that with Bryce Underwood in the boat that they haven't been able to pick off a couple more wide receivers?
I am a little surprised in a way. It's a position that is very flashy now with NIL, quite honestly, and it's a position group that at the same time you can go probably get somebody better, more proven, and established from the transfer portal, a la a Keon Coleman, than going out and trying to risk a receiver you might not be fully sold on. For example, like Khalid Lockett, he's a 5-star wide receiver. He's probably going to command quite a number, especially when you look at the competition involved with him. And quite frankly, I don't know if that's a prudent thing to do, even if you have oodles of money and want to, reset the bar at wide receiver high school recruiting wise for yourself. I don't know if that's the right move. You can go out and find somebody who's, like I said, really proven and developed and maybe has 2 years, and they can step up and play with Bryce Underwood or Garrett Nussmeier in his second year as a starter. You can do all sorts of different things if you allocate funds the right way. And I think that's kind of the line to walk, because receiver, like I said, it's becoming this flashy position in terms of NIL, and a lot of kids at that position, I don't want to say they're not in it for the right reasons, because there are good coaching staffs that can recruit and try to balance all the different pitches and NIL and all of that. But there's also the reality that there are very few schools producing wide receivers right now at the level of an LSU, an Ohio State, programs like that. And so I think it's a tough position, because if you don't necessarily want to break a bank on a wide receiver, it's really not a wise move to do that. Unless you're trying to, again, add some real flash to a class and quite frankly overspend. So with Bryce Underwood being committed, it is surprising, because you're like, oh, this is a shoo-in for a 5-star receiver to just say, all right, I'm going to play with Bryce Underwood for sure, and this is a good situation. We'll grow up together. But receivers are also wanting to play early, so they could come in and play with a whole nother, could be Garrett Nussmeier for a year or something. So it is an intriguing position, and it is kind of a struggle this cycle in a sense, because yes, they have Manchild committed in the class, but it's after the run that LSU's been on the last 5 years of producing receivers, and beyond that, of course, you'd think they'd be knocking down the door.
It's so interesting, the way that we talk about recruiting has been completely changed in the last 4 years with NIL, where you're talking about, well, you don't want to spend that money. We would never talk in salary cap terms 5-6 years ago, but here we are. I realize this is a big picture question, and one that you can't nail down and answer exactly, but just a big picture, bear with me. LSU on the On3 rankings for the class of 2025 is ranked second right now behind Ohio State. Ohio State's got 20 commitments. LSU has 12. Behind LSU is Georgia, Bama, and Notre Dame. They've got 16, 19, and 21 commitments. And we know that Brian Kelly wants to build through high school. So it's not one of those deals where, yeah, I'll take 12, 13 high school kids, and then we'll go get 15, 20 kids out of the portal. That's not how he wants to do it. So before the season starts, where would you expect that number to be from 12? Closer to 20, closer to 12? I mean, just kind of your gut.
I think it's closer to 20.
Okay.
And just kind of off the top of my head, they're in strong position for a Zion Williams, who's a defensive tackle out of East Texas. They're in a strong position for Brandon Brown, a defensive lineman out of Miami, who is currently committed to Texas, unless he backed off, and I'm just having a complete blank there. But you also have Damian Shanklin, a 4-star edge, who's set to announce his decision on July 5th. That would get them to 15 if they landed him. Who knows? Maybe there are some others that move decisions up, like a Jace Thomas out of Destrehan, who earned an offer from LSU. That would be 16 if they can keep him in state, which we expect them to at this point. And, then there are some other top targets that they have that could end up making decisions and maybe moving up their timelines or, just kind of coming out of nowhere. If they knock a visit out, like at the Bayou Splash, for example, maybe they can make a move with somebody and get closer to that 20 mark. So I think 18 is a pretty good bet by the end of the summer that they sit at.
And you'll be there for all of it. We'll be following along over at the Bengal Tiger, part of the On3 Network. He is Billy Embody. We appreciate some time, man.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Billy Embody, part of On3. Look, you can find all the recruiting information your heart desires over there at the Bengal Tiger. I'm constantly impressed with the amount of content he and Shay are able to pump in on the recruiting side. There's been half a dozen updates, even just today, on recruits that I've been kind of checking in periodically. But quite honestly, I'm looking more so at the baseball transfer portal thread that's been updated a lot over the last couple of weeks. So go on and get your subscription and check those guys out this summer. We got one more segment to go here on a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Visit LeBear's Baton Rouge Casino this summer for exciting live sports action. We got the biggest screens around, and ESPN Bet is live in Louisiana. Plus, Pin Play Rewards members can win up to $500 in Pin Cash every single week. So visit pinplaysports.com/cover5 today and register for your chance to play and win. Not a member? No big deal. Get the Pin Play app today. LeBear's Baton Rouge Casino is your live sports headquarters. Bring your whole crew for all the action. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 877-770-STOP.
Get the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge app powered by Bayou Ford and tap the microphone icon to send us your thoughts in an audio message. Your message could be played on air during Off the Bench with Esther and T-Bob, The Hunt Palmer Show, and after further review with Matt Moscone.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. So it's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Charles Handegriff joined me and Jimmy Ott for the Friday edition of Live at Lunch from Rufino's on Highland Road. Troy Macker and Bruce Marshall among our guests as we get you ready for the weekend. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. from Rufino's on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You are listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
I think I'm going to head to Rouse's right after 6 o'clock when I get off the air. I just got word that my wife and son are headed to the North Shore briefly this evening before they come on back, so I'm solo for dinner. I think I'm going to cook something. Probably something that she wouldn't want to eat that I like, and so I'll have to figure that out at Rouse's, but I've got 3 hours to think about that when I host After Further Review coming up when we're done here in just about 5 minutes. So excited to get on by Rouse's, Burbank and Lee, and see what we can do for dinner this evening. I invite you to do the exact same for your dinner plans tonight or your weekend plans or 4th of July if you're heading to the beach. Want to get everything in the car before you head that way? Rouse's can certainly help you out with all of that, and we appreciate them bringing you our Thursday shows. All right, Mr. Kitchens, let's play Take It or Leave It.
All righty then. Make sure my mic is good. Okay.
It's good.
Take it or leave it. A Japanese under-20 football team beat an American under-football team 41-20. Super Bowl champions can no longer be referred to as world champions. Take it or leave it.
I've always thought it was a little interesting that we refer to our American sports teams as the world champions. And I'm a little confused by a Japanese football team beating an American team. Did we send our 8th graders to play a bunch of...
The way you think about it, though, I mean, the good 20-year-olds are not going to be playing for this team, though. They're in college.
Who are they? Like, who
I don't know.
Who are these 19-year-olds that we send? I mean, I guarantee you I could go to LSU's campus, and if you gave me a week, I could find you a football team. Let me go out there to intramurals. I'll find you a football team that can beat these Japanese kids. I just need some time.
You just said a week? Like a couple days, a day or two. Yeah, I'm about to say.
I got to find some linemen, some pass rushers, and a lot of folks over there are a little out of shape after a few trips out to Tigerland and maybe a couple of 12-ounce curls as opposed to their high school weight room. But I think I can figure it out pretty quickly. I don't know what happened in this game, but getting doubled up by the Japanese in football is not a good look for us. We got to put they put Peter Colangelo or Jerry Colangelo in charge of Team USA basketball after we got beaten a few Olympics in a row, and he put the Redeem team together and we beat the brakes off everybody. We might need to put the Japanese in their place on a football field.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. Okay, all right, take it or leave it. Flau'jae Johnson album, Best of Both Worlds, drops tomorrow. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. I don't know that I'm going to be purchasing the album. I don't know if I'm going to be listening to much of the album. But look, Flau'jae, I think, is going to be a stud on the floor this year. I think she's going to be like a team leader for that team and really take over a lot of the scoring duties that Angel had for a good bit and that Haley had a little bit last year. So I'm really excited to watch her on the floor. I don't know if I'm going to get too deep into her musical musings. You in on Flau'jae's album, or are you going to kind of let that one go on the wayside?
I mean, the stream, so I can just put it on Spotify or something.
There you go.
That's all you got to do.
I'm curious if she'll make more cash in the music world or the basketball world.
I mean, well, the WNBA, if it keeps going up with Angel and Caitlin Clark, you never know. But I think
I just don't know what her musical what are her musical prospects. Like, is she thought of to be really, really good, or is she just like the basketball player who we know that does also?
It might be a little bit of both, but she's good though. Like, she's not making BS. Like,
I'm pulling
she's
for her.
Decent. She's
good.
Decent. Okay,
crush
all
it.
Right. A 17-year-old Chinese girl stands 7'3" and dropped 44 points on Japan yesterday. She was 22 from 24 from the field. Move over, Caitlin Clark. Take it or leave it.
I have a question about this.
Yes.
This 17-year-old Chinese female basketball player scored 44 points. She was 22 of 24.
Amazing.
22 of 24 from the floor. How did she miss 2 shots? I've seen high school girls.
Yeah.
I don't love their prospects of guarding a 7'3" girl. I've seen high school boys that I don't like covering a 7'3" girl. This should be a 24 for 24 from the floor. She should go an entire season and never miss. Like, what? How are they going to stop her? Run right to the block, throw it straight up in the air. I mean, your average high school post player is what, 5'5"?
Well, these are girls, so it's even smaller.
I mean, I think
I'm about to say it might be shorter than that.
5'8"? Like, that's 24. That's 100% shooting percentage by my estimation for the year if you're 7'3" in high school. Like, I've thought about these college male basketball players that are 6'10" in high school, and I've thought about what they would do against my high school team. My buddy was our post player. He is 6'3" and can't really jump. Like that, he scored 100. How does she not score 100? I'm actually disappointed she only scored 44 points.
Look,
7'3". My heavens, that is difficult to deal with. You can send a quintuple team and not deal with that. Doesn't help much if they're up to her waist. I think this girl needs to get. I think the shooting percentage is not good enough at 22 out of 24.
She's not trying hard enough.
Clearly.
Okay, Bronny James, he's a spectacle at this point.
He is.
Bronny James, will he go undrafted tonight? Take it or leave it?
I'll leave it. I think somebody's going to take him, and I don't think they will take him in an effort for him to help their team. This is a guy who was a rotational piece at an average Pac-12 basketball team last year. Like, he's gone through some stuff with the heart stuff and all that, and obviously in his dad's shadow can be a little bit different from a basketball perspective, not necessarily a life perspective. But I think somebody's going to do this to try to entice LeBron to go play for their franchise. Like, has there ever been a non-starter 4-point-per-game freshman declare for the NBA draft? Like, has that ever happened?
I haven't seen it before, but
if his name was Bronny Johnson, like he wouldn't even be. They wouldn't talk about him ever.
But I told you my plan. Fill the seats, baby. Come on, David Griffin.
You want him in the Big
Fill the
Easy.
seats. We need Bronny jerseys. Come on.
I do think that you could sell some Bronny jerseys. Whether or not he could help the Pelicans win, I have my sincere doubts. But look, they're talking about him right now on ESPN. They got odds to try. Like, that's all they're talking about. You got Filipowski, who didn't go last night, which, by the way, huge gut punch to him, not having a guaranteed roster spot next year, where if you're a first rounder, you do. That's a big bummer for him. But I think Bronny will get taken tonight. That's it for our Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Rouse's. If you missed any of it, you can catch it on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google. Wherever you find your sound, you can find us. Luke Johnson talking Steve Gleason. We talked about the Pels draft. We also had Billy Embody talking recruiting. All that's available, and it is on YouTube as well. That's going to do it for me for the Hunt Palmer Show. We're going to pause for SportsCenter. When we come back, Hunt's going to drive you home on After Further Review.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
There's nothing chill about a